Hello, welcome to Lemon Series, where we talk movies, television, and wrestling. I'm, of course, the Lemon himself, Zeke Lemon, and this is my review for Scream 7. But before we get into that, let's get the house clean out of the way. Shall I leave a like, comment below, let me know your thoughts on Scream 7. And of course, hit that subscribe button. It helps me grow into my YouTube career. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, all that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? So, Scream 7, I was really looking forward to this movie because to me, Scream is one of the most consistent franchises. In all of the slasher genre, and the whole entire horror genre for that matter. I mean, it's definitely the most consistent out of the core five, or the Furious Five, or what we like to call them now, the Slash Street Boys. Freddy, Michael, Jason, Leatherface, and now Ghostface. The main five icons. Art the Clown is making a claim for it to be like a six-pack, or if anything, but that Slash Street and Ghostface is the most consistent out of all of them. And Neve Campbell's going to be back. I know there was some controversy. We'll talk about that a little bit after the review. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that whole controversy, make sure you stick around for that, or fast forward. But I really hope you do stick around for it. I will say I do think you have a right to be as upset with the studio as you do, but I'm not going to be that person who's going to immediately bash the movie or or hoping that it sucks just because of a pre-production decision that I wasn't a huge fan of. I'm going to base this movie on my own merits. And what my merit is on it is kind of unsatisfying because I thought the movie was just okay for the most part. Now, for the positives in this film, I think the movie starts off absolutely amazing. I think it is, full throttle. I loved everything we did within the cold open. And then as we start the story and we're starting to introduce the main characters that we are going to be around, and we focus on this dynamic between Sydney and her daughter, Tatum, that whole dynamic was really interesting. I like a lot of the parallels that we did with the previous films as well, especially within the first one. There was a lot of, hitting the beats, if you will, in the beginning, just to show how things have come full circle. And Sydney facing that trauma head on, where her daughter does want to get to know her, but Sydney being someone who has lived this spotlight life, everything was pretty well documented, and how there is a lot of trauma within that, how you don't want your daughter to be a part of it. It's the opposite pendulum of what Halloween 2018 did, right? In Halloween 2018, Laurie Strode freaking had her daughter ran like military to make sure that she could be really well prepared if Michael Myers was to show up. While Sydney, she went the completely other way. She wanted her daughter to stay away from that so much that she had no training. And now here comes Ghostface, and you get to see that pendulum and that different effects causing into each other. Because in Halloween 2018, the relationship is completely disdained, but once it got to cooking, the training was pulled off, right? Here, sure, the relationship is somewhat disdained, but they still like each other in some way. She still yearns for her mother's attention. But when the shit hits the fan, right, then, she is really starting to struggle, and, she's trying to prove herself to be Sidney Prescott's daughter, as opposed to just being a victim. I really did like that dynamic. I wish we hit it a lot more. And I think the reason why we weren't able to is because this was a pretty bloated cast. And I use the term bloated because I just think there are some people who just didn't necessarily need to be here. I know Gail has been in it, all six of them, and, there probably would have been a big uproar if she wasn't in this. And at first, I did see the purpose within her. I liked everything that we did with her. And that's the thing with this cast. No one performed badly in this movie. It's just where the placement of them is where it kind of falls flat a little bit. I don't feel like some characters were executed in the best ways, and some people, when they were in there, they were good, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, why are you here? Gail was kind of one of those characters. Yeah, she has a significant part. There was this really big time scene. I think it's in one of the trailers where, she's having an interview. That's a really good scene in the film, but then after that, she kind of disappears. And I'm just like, well, Gail, we probably could have had someone else do this in a lot of ways. Also, Sydney and Chad, the people who we've had from Scream 5 and Scream 6. Love those characters. They're really funny in this. The dynamic is very well. At the end of the day, I don't know why they need to be in this movie. Sometimes you just got to tell people, hey, it's not your night, kid. And so that way we can eliminate those characters and use that runtime to establish some other people within the field. Another positive that I had, because we're going to do a positive negative type thing. Back to the positives, I really did like the way Ghostface stalked in this movie. And what I mean by that is that, you know, we've seen Ghostface in 1 and even 2. I think even for the original trilogy, for the most part, you know, he's a little bumbly, right? You know, he slips, he trips, he does all these different things, and that's because, you know, he's inexperienced people. It's like their first time starting to kill, so, you know, they're not as trained, if you will, right? Same with Scream 4. Scream 5 and 6, it became a little bit more of a visceralness to him, especially in Scream 6, for sure. It's probably the most violent Ghostface has ever been. Here, there is a lot of fun with the stalking and the lead up to it, because Ghostface is not just a brute. It's not just, okay, he's hiding somewhere, then once he comes out, he's going to come out. No, we used Ghostface like a ghost for the first time. And what I mean by that is that, you know, he always made sure to turn the lights off. You know, you always look, it's always wide shots and you're looking around. It's kind of like Paranormal Activity in a lot of ways. And you're looking into the shadows. Oh, there's his face there, and then he would disappear. And we did that pretty consistently throughout the film, as we knew, you know, he was about to take another victim. And I really enjoyed that. I loved it. I think it was some of the best use of Ghostface ever. The pre-kill to Ghostface and, you know, using him like a ghost to live up to that name. Again, the best use in that sense. Where the movie mainly falls flat is not just within the reveal, because I think the reveal is some of the worst. It is the worst Ghostface reveal out of all 7. Absolutely. Like, the motive doesn't really make full sense, and why they chose to kill some victims after watching the movie in hindsight doesn't fully make sense to me either. And also the purpose to use the costume as well. I'm just kind of like, what, you put on the mask for what, out of necessity? I feel like you didn't really care for that portion whatsoever. But once the introduction is over, we introduce all the characters, we get their dynamics, the movie becomes very formulaic, and the characters are not as smart as we set them up to be. Sidney, for the most part, you know, is the smartest. Tatum is a naive teenager, so it's somewhat understandable. The husband is the chief of police, and I actually really like his character a lot. He's a husband, a partner, and a father that I would like to be in the future. Like, that's how much I enjoyed the character. But I shit you not, there's a scene in this movie where, you know, hey, something's happening. We know Ghostface is back. We know Sidney's going to be a prime target, and especially her daughter. So we got to search the house, right? So they do a clean sweep of the house. It's a 2-story house. They only do the first floor. They don't go upstairs. And I'm just like, really? That's all you're going to do? And then sure enough, you know, some things happen. And it's just like, well, yeah, what did you expect? And there's also a choice of lines in there too of like, hey, why'd you do this? Oh, I thought you did that. Why did you think that this person did that? And within that sense, there are some scenes in this movie where I thought this movie was about to get really ballsy with the reveal. And that if they were able to land it with the thought of the reveal that I had, I thought it could have been an all-timer, in all honesty. But no, we didn't go with that. And it just turns out to be like kind of dumb character moments for the most part to me that I just don't feel like Sidney Prescott in her home would not allowed to happen. I feel like she would have been much more, you know, 5 steps ahead than what it would have been. Now, granted, she has been out of the game, and that is part of the motive of the film. But overall, again, I feel like there was other ways that we could have gone about it. But yeah, flat Ghostface reveal that really sucks the air out of the room. Really, when all is done, bloated characters, some dumb character moments throughout the film. Once it gets to Act 2, there's no real development. Again, there are some things I'm just like there's a scene where they called the police. Hey, call the police and make sure to go there. And the streets stay empty the whole entire time. And I just don't know how. And I don't know how more cops aren't coming around over here. This is like the most incompetent town ever. After this, I am totally moving. Like, that's how bad the town ran this film. And I just think it comes down to screenwriting. And again, just a really bloated cast and not really know fully what to do with them. Now, is it time for a break when it comes to Scream? I think it's a consideration, but this movie is going to make so much fucking money. I was in a full sold out crowd, which I don't recall the last time that has happened for me for a horror movie. Like, it's been a long time since I've been in a sold out theater when it comes to that genre. And so therefore 8 is going to happen. Now, what do you do with that? I do think maybe we go back to 5 and 6 a little bit. How does that come into play? Because I do think we wrapped up the Carpenter storyline pretty well in 6. But so let's get into it, right? Overall, I rate the movie a store-bought lemonade, where that's like the 3rd ranking. That's the start of the positives. Sour Lemon's at the bottom. Really bad movie. Expired store-bought lemonade, bad movie, but hey, there's some good. Store-bought lemonade, good, but there's a good chunk of bad in there. And that's where I put Scream 7 at. It's a fine slasher film, but overall, it's not a good Scream movie, if that makes sense. Even though, again, I still think they batted 7 for 7. It's just a quality at bats, right? 1, 4, and 5, home runs. 6, a triple, to me, personally. 2 was a double. 3 was a single. This one, it was a single, but they were able to get to second base due to an error on the defense. An over missed throw where they weren't able to secure the catch. Therefore, she gets to stand at second, is part 7. Now, as for everything that was leading up to this movie, because this movie had an uphill climb from the get-go. There was going to be a portion of the audience who was going to negatively receive this movie due to everything that happened before. I think you have a right to that. I'll come out in a minute. I think Spygate really fucked up the whole entire situation with Melissa Barrera. And I know Jenna Ortega kind of just left due to solidarity with her. I don't think there was necessarily any beef with the beef between the two whatsoever. It's just Jenna Ortega saw the situation, goes, I don't agree with that, so therefore I'm not going to be a movie, and pulled out, and rightfully to her to do so. I don't see anything wrong with what Melissa posted, but Studio One picked a side, obviously, and therefore they stuck to it, and they brought back Neve Campbell, and they paid her the money she wanted. I don't think Neve Campbell deserves any of the hate that she is getting online. If you are one of the main pioneers who made Scream famous, which she is, right? She is the final girl. To use wrestling terms, she is Hulk Hogan. She is John Cena. She is Stone Cold Steve Austin. She is, the current generation Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. She is the face that runs the place for sure. Could Melissa be that Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes who is right now? Absolutely. And I think she is. I know some people think that they took some shots at her in this movie. I don't see that whatsoever. They don't bring her up in this movie at all. And I think there's a reason to that, right? Her or Jenna Ortega's character, for that matter. They don't bring them up. And I think there was a reason for that, is that they do plan on kissing and making up for the 8th one so they can bring them back. And so therefore, okay, we don't need to put anything so that way we don't have to go around these hurdles within the script because we establish this in the next one. No, we just won't mention them. So therefore, when we come back, we are free to do whatever we want with those characters when we do decide to kiss and make up. And why do I feel like they'll be able to kiss and make up? When you put enough zeros, anyone can be forgiven. That's just how I see it personally. So what I'm trying to say is that, look, it was a really messy situation overall. And yes, Spygate really messed up. I think it's your right to be upset with the film. Do I think negatively criticizing it openly before you even saw it or even spoiling it online, but thankfully I was able to avoid at all costs. I don't think that's necessarily fair for the people who do want to see it. I think just saying, hey, let's boycott it, I'm just not going to watch it. And, I disagree with you if you do choose to watch it. That's fine. And I think that's absolutely fair. But overall, I think it was a messy situation. And, when eventually 8 gets greenlit, because again, I was in a sold out theater, so I think this movie is going to make a ton of money. I think we do need to kiss and make up. But if not, I do think maybe it is time for another break to just see what the new rules are. Or maybe take it into a little bit of a different direction, change up the playbook a little bit, because again, this cast is getting big. and we do need to start slicing some people off. We need to take some risk. We need to have some heartfelt breakups. And by breakups, I mean deaths in these movies in order to really officially move on and make it last even longer than it needs to, so it can surpass Sidney Campbell. Oh, not Sidney Campbell. Yeah, Sidney Campbell and Gale Weathers, for that matter. But yeah, overall, I think it's a fine movie. If you want to go out to the theaters and see it, go ahead. Do I think it's going to have that rewatchability? Because the fun of Scream is not only watching to try to figure out who the killer is, but to go back and watch it again to see if you could pick up anything, to be like, oh man, how did I miss it all the way through, right? This movie, I don't feel like it has that, because again, the reveal is really, it's bad. It is bad. Again, it's nothing against the people or person who is Ghostface at the end. It's just, you know, the whole execution and within the writing of it, assuming it could be just within the editing of the film on how it was executed as to why it's such a bad reveal. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Scream 7. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Sorry to take it on so long. It's almost borderline at a podcast level, really. Leave a like if you made this far in the review. I do greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, as I am trying to grow into my YouTube career. And don't forget to squeeze the days, guys, because life is too short not to give you. Also squeeze every opportunity that you can. Until next time, I'll see you here at Lemon Studios.